all get a message saying that it's streaming. Done. And let's see. All right, thanks for your patience, everybody. I should do that right before 7 from now on, I think. Right, great. Back to recording. And I'll share my screen real fast. We'll give a quick intro and then we'll let Mel do their stuff. So welcome everybody. It's the Friday night. This is so fun. We're almost a year into doing this. In fact, maybe, yeah, 2 weeks. Anyway, it's just so fun. I love these Friday night workshops. So thanks for being here. We call it We Believe in Comics. We took it over from The Believer when they stopped doing it, I guess about a year ago. Anyway, where are you? You're at SAW. It's the Sequential Artists Workshop. It's a nonprofit. We have a lot of courses. I'm going to tell you about a couple of them in a second. We also do a lot of other work, helping people share their work and share their stories out. I'll tell you what's coming soon real fast. Next week in this spot is putting the O in your OC. I think OC means original characters. I'm not really sure. Jerzy Droz, I don't know how to pronounce Jerzy. Even though I've known Jerzy a long time, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Anyway, so he'll be here next week. Mel's here today, and if you want to sign up with Mel's romance comics, it's starting November 13th to December 4th, and that's going to be a great 4-week class, and that's running on Sundays. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. And also, this is one of your last chances to sign up for the week-long retreat that's happening in Gainesville in a couple weeks. And I'll show you some slides from one of the last ones we did. We made tons of mini comics. We did lots of drawing outside where we looked for bison and unicorns, and did and it's just a great place to meet with people, read lots of comics, and get lots of work done. Anyway, so share what you do tonight on social media, hashtag Friday Night Comics. We're at Comics Workshop. I think Mel is M. Gilman, but I'll double check that. And I'll put that in the chat so you can share and tag all of us. And you can also find lots of people sharing work at members.sawcomics.org. Want to thank everybody who donated either tonight or any other Friday night. It helps us keep these free for everybody. We'll be hearing more about that. This is a lot of what we do with those donations. I'll be telling you more about that soon too. Please keep it PG-13. Enjoy. It's time for nature drawing with Mel Gilman. I want to hear from Mel if this book is out. I think it just came out, right? So I want to hear about that. Okay. And also just a reminder that Mel's teaching a 4-week class on romance comics, and I'm really excited about that too. So I'll stop sharing. Mel, at this point, I would love to spotlight you and let you do your thing and anything you've got in store for us. I may mute, but you can always just shout out to me, and I'm here for you if you need anything.
Sure. Well, thanks so much for the intro. I'll take things away from here. I feel like probably a lot of people in the room either like crossed paths with me before or have taken a class of mine in the past. But in any case, hello, I'm Mel Gilman. I'm going to be talking with us about nature drawing specifically today, in part because this is one of the things that my work tends to be decently well known for, and it's a thing that is a big part of the comics that I do. So I wanted to spend some time talking about like useful tips and strategies that are going to make a potentially daunting part of background art for many cartoonists a little bit easier and more manageable. So I am going to share my screen. I've got a presentation that I'm going to go through with us. As a warning, once I'm in this like screen share mode, I can't really see the like Zoom text chat anymore. So if anybody wants to like interrupt me with questions, just like unmute yourself and talk into the mic. That's the only way I'll hear you. What's going to happen is I'm going to probably spend about like 20 minutes or so talking, and then I'm going to give us all an exercise, a drawing exercise. So be sure that you've got some materials nearby that you would like to do some drawing with. Any medium that you like to work in is totally fine. This is going to be very short and loose and informal. And then after that, we will have some time at the end of the hour for volunteers who want to show off what they drew for the prompt that I'm going to give us towards the end here. Obviously not required to share if you don't want to, but there will be time for people who want to share their art to share. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started talking about this. What I want to talk about today is strengthening nature drawings that show up in the background of your comics. And again, the reason why I'm doing this topic specifically is because this is a thing that my work is fairly well known for. I'm a person who loves to draw nature. Nature is a big part of most of the work that I create. And this is a thing that I've been doing for enough years that I've built up kind of my own internal set of strategies that tend to make this process a little bit easier. So I wanted to share some of those with the folks in the room here. So the thing that I wanted to start with is I think a lot of people are really intimidated by nature drawing when it comes to comics. And this can be kind of understandable when we go outside and actually take a look at things like foliage. And it's really easy to look at forest scenes and get really intimidated by them because you're looking at this and you're like, oh my God, there's so much happening right here. I'm looking at probably 80 different species just in this one photo right now. They're all really densely packed in together. There's just a lot of visual chaos that is happening right here. And if I am a comic book artist, we're always on deadline and we're always pushing against the mortality of our drawing hands. So we need to figure out ways that we can actually make stuff like this manageable. So the very first thing that I'm going to say to all of us in the room tonight, and this, if you take away nothing else from my entire lecture, and this is the number one thing that I want you to remember me saying, is that there are no points awarded for drawing every single leaf in any nature drawing that you are making. No one is ever going to give you credit for being that person who took this reference photo and drew every single leaf in this dang forest that you're trying to depict in your comics. We are trying to deliberately simplify what we are working with here in order to save ourselves time and energy and restrain at the end of the day. All right, one thing that is a useful way to approach nature drawing in general is that I want you to think about natural elements when they show up in your comic as being not just set dressing, but actually compositional tools. And they're tools that you can move around as needed to suit your purposes. Because the thing is, nobody is ever going to fact check you on this stuff. Nobody is ever going to be like, well, show me the photo references for these panels that you drew. I need to make sure that you have exactly as many trees in the background as were actually there in the nature that you were drawing from. No one cares about that. There are no points awarded for putting yourself through that punishing mess. And also, all of these things, trees, bushes, rocks, shrubs, whatever it is that you're drawing, these are things which you as an artist can move around and change as you see fit in whatever way is going to benefit your composition and make your life easier. So I want you to think of these things as not being rooted in place, but rather as being compositional elements and shapes that you can move around in order to make your life easier and your compositions more pleasing. So how do we do this? I'm going to give some strategies here. First off, in the same way in which there are no points awarded for drawing every leaf in a forest, there are also no points awarded for drawing every single species that is going to show up in a natural background that you're drawing. What I encourage people to do is think about aiming for a limited palette of plants. You don't need to draw every single species that is showing up in a landscape. Again, the natural world is very diverse. There's usually going to be, dozens of species that are in any, square foot of ground that we're looking at, but we don't have time to draw all that. And you don't necessarily need to do that in order to give the impression of a well-populated natural landscape. So instead, kind of think about what are maybe 4 or 5 species that you could become good at drawing and that you could kind of find an easy way to cartoon that works for your style and that you can layer into a background in order to make this more manageable for yourself. And again, your readers are not going to be paying enough attention to be like, oh, there's only 4 species here. No one is going to fault you for this. So limit the amount of species that you're working with first and foremost. The way that you can do this, especially when we're talking about forest scenes in particular, is it's helpful to kind of think about the anatomy of a forest in total. Generally, when we're thinking about forests, we're going to have some canopy species, you know, our very tall species. We're going to have some understory species. Those are going to be the, you know, roughly human height species that'll show up in the plant world. And then there's going to be shorter stuff that's growing on the forest floor, you know, grasses, flowers, etc. And if you could pick like 1 or 2 species for each one of these categories and find a way to layer those into your compositions, you're doing pretty good at that point. And you are going to end up with a forest scene which looks diverse and well populated as a reader is quickly scanning through a page that they're reading. Also, you know, I know I'm talking a lot about like deciduous forests and things like that here, but I do want to be clear that this principle, you know, canopy, understory, forest floor, actually applies to a lot of ecosystems that we don't tend to think of as being quote unquote forests. If we think about like cacti growing in the desert, there are oftentimes going to be pretty similar characteristics. You know, there's always going to be some species that really want that sunlight, so they're going to get up tall and they're going to really reach for the sky there. There's going to be some other species that want to linger closer to the ground. They want a little bit less sunlight. They want a little bit more protection from the wind and the elements, so they want to be a little bit shorter. Then we're always going to get a little bit of that height variation in most ecosystems that we're talking about. This is also true of most underwater scenes too. Underwater plant landscapes do tend to have, you know, in a way their own canopy, understory, forest floor. So again, be thinking about those categories, whatever natural environment that you're working with, and that is going to be a good starting place for you. All right, so how do we actually start drawing these? One thing which I think is a really important principle to like internalize for us as cartoonists is that like simple characterizations of plant species actually work really great in comics. You do not need to be a master of photorealistic natural botanical drawing in order to draw an effective nature scene in comics. And there are many cartoonists out there who are doing excellent work with very, very limited and very, very sparse cartooning that still feels natural and alive on the page because it's a good fit for their overall style. You can find solutions like this that work for your artwork depending on the style that you're working in. Every different cartoonist is going to develop kind of their own unique visual language for like visual shorthands of natural things that are showing up in their comic. You'll even notice here that Bill Watterson is kind of doing the thing that I was recommending earlier, you know, only a couple different species that are happening here. We've got canopy, understory, forest floor, and he is deliberately building in kind of a limited palette of plants in order to save himself time and energy and to open up the composition a little bit. And this doesn't feel like an underpopulated forest scene to us. This feels like an appropriately rendered and beautifully composed forest scene to us because we don't need to see every single leaf in a composition. Another thing which is going to be important for everyone to internalize when we're talking about nature drawing is that atmospheric perspective is going to be your best friend and the thing that saves your life as a cartoonist. For people who didn't go through like art school classes and aren't familiar with this term, atmospheric perspective is basically just like a fancy art word for the way that, you know, things that are far away from us tend to get smaller and fuzzier and less detailed and less saturated, and things that are closer to us tend to be larger, more detailed, more saturated, etc. That's atmospheric perspective. And And this is so useful for us as cartoonists, this natural effect of human vision and the way that light works in our universe is so useful for us as cartoonists because this gives us permission to cheat a lot of our compositions. What atmospheric perspective allows you to do is to fade out background elements and still have your scenes look believable. There's a lot of your composition when you're drawing nature that you straight up don't have to draw because you're using atmospheric perspective. You are deliberately fading things out as they get further away from the position of the camera or the reader, whatever you want to call it, and you are taking advantage of this actual visual effect that exists in the real world, and you're using it to save yourself time and save yourself risk strain. It's great, wonderful. You'll notice this once you start paying attention to the ways that cartoonists are using this. There's a lot of different strategies for this, but most commonly, on top of fading things out as they go into the background, you're also going to see a lot of cartoonists that are using texture rather than shape to communicate things in the far off distance. And this is another really simple and effective shorthand for atmospheric perspective that is also quick to do. This does not take us a lot of time as cartoonists, and it weirdly looks more realistic to our eye because we all intuitively understand what atmospheric perspective is, even if we're not familiar with the term. You know, we've all looked at landscapes before. We're all familiar on a subconscious level with the ways that things tend to fade out as they become more distant from us. Also, I've been showing a lot of full color examples, but this does work in ink and black and white just as much as it does in full color work. Many cartoonists, when they're working strictly in ink, are also finding ways to deliberately fade things out as they're getting further away from the camera. And again, this is saving us time, this is saving us energy, this is saving us wrist strain along the way, and it ends up looking more natural to the human eye as readers. All right, another topic that I want to talk about here is I want to talk a little bit about plant structure because, you know, the better that we understand the way that plants work, the more that we can apply that understanding to the art that we are creating. This is not going to be a botany deep dive because I am not well trained enough to do that, but I'm going to share a handful of things that I have found useful as an artist so that we can take these rules and internalize them and use them to better the work that we're producing. One really useful tip about drawing plants in general is that most plants are structured in this very specific way. Not all plants, obviously, you know, there's never going to be a 100% universal rule in biology at all, but most plants are going to be doing something like this. We're going to have newer growth near the top of the plant, obviously, and older growth near the base of the plant, but also the direction of the leaves is going to change as we move down the stalk. Newer growth up the top is going to be vertically oriented, and then as we get into that older growth, the leaves start tipping downward. So I want you to be thinking about this sort of circular shape that plants are making as they grow, where we've got new leaves that are pointing upwards, and then as we move down the plant into the older leaves, we're getting into heavier leaves, older leaves, larger leaves that are more downward oriented. If you can remember that shape, that is going to help you out a lot when it comes to plant drawing. And this actually holds true for larger plants too, like trees. If you know, next time that you're taking a look at a conifer tree, you can notice this same effect in pine trees. You know, we're going to have smaller, newer branches at the very top that tend to be upward oriented. And then as we move down the trunk, we're getting larger, heavier branches that tend to be pointed downward because they're bigger, they're heavier, they're older, gravity's getting to them. We can all relate to this. All right. Also, another important thing about trees in particular is that they're usually not perfectly vertical. Oftentimes, if you introduce what I like to think of as kind of a contrapposto pose into the trees that you're drawing, they tend to end up looking a little bit more natural. It's okay to give your trees a little bit of a curve to them, a little bit of a twist to them. Tree trunks do actually oftentimes rotate a little bit as the tree is growing slowly over the course of its life. And introducing a little bit of that curve, a little bit of that twist tends to give these trees more life, more dynamism, and also a little bit more of a natural look to them. Also, if you are a person who likes to draw deciduous forests and you're wondering about, that leaf shape rule that I was describing to you, it does also work for, big canopy, old growth hardwoods too. If you stand underneath a tree and sort of look upwards into the leaves, you're going to notice, again, top branches tend to be smaller, newer growth, older branches tend to be pointing downwards a little bit more. We get a little bit of an octopus shape, like tentacles branching out from them. So taking all of this into account, when you're drawing an entire forest in particular, one of the best and easiest things that you can do, which is going to benefit your compositions and make these forests feel a little bit more alive, a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more natural, is just vary the angles of the trees a little bit. Trees, again, are probably not all growing perfectly straight up. Some of them are going to tilt a little bit to this way, some of them are going to tilt a little bit to that way. And if you introduce a little bit of that natural wiggliness, that natural variation, you're going to end up with better compositions in the long run in most cases. All right, and this brings us to composition, which is one of my favorite things to talk about with nature drawing, because it really does boil down to composition tricks in a lot of cases. This is not so much going to be a lecture about like, how do we draw more photorealistic like leaves or trees or anything like that. This is about like, what are compositional tools and compositional shorthands that we can use regardless of whatever visual style we're working in that are going to benefit our compositions as cartoonists and make our nature scenes feel more rich, more alive, more visually pleasing, and more natural. Okay, so I've got a bunch of these that I'm going to go through relatively quickly here. I'm going to start with this. So a lot of beginner artists, when we start drawing nature, we tend to default to perfectly flat grounds when we're drawing outdoor scenes. When we delineate the ground, we're like, okay, line, there's my ground. And this is not to like, talk down to this. This is actually probably kind of a like weirdly primal human impulse, because if you look at kids' drawings, almost all kids start with this shorthand. We learn to draw the ground as a straight, flat line, almost regardless of like the ecosystem or the terrain that we grow up in. This is how we tend to delineate the ground as children. So there's probably some sort of like subconscious primal human thing in terms of, our visual way that we interpret landscapes here. But now that we are adults, we can do a little bit better than this, right? And anyone who has gone outside is probably well aware that ground is actually very rarely perfectly flat in nature, though. Not going to say it's never perfectly flat. Again, never say never with biology or ecology or anything. But most often there's going to be at least a little bit of a natural curve to whatever landscape you are looking at. So this is one of the easiest and simplest and most effective things that you can do, which is going to benefit your compositions as a nature artist dramatically, is just tilt your ground a little bit. This immediately introduces a lot more life, a lot more energy, a lot more visual interest into the panel art that you are creating. Just taking that flat ground that is your like, base baby brain human impulse and just tilt it a little bit in one direction or another. And that is going to be your first starting point here. Other important questions are going to be, what is your compositional focal point? If we're talking about comics, oftentimes, we're not just simply drawing nature, we're usually drawing human characters or other characters who are involved in that nature and somehow they're standing in front of it or they're walking through it or they're doing something. But often the characters are going to be our focal point, right? And then the question becomes, once you know what that focal point is, your character or whatever else it is that you want your reader to be focusing on, how do you organize the other natural stuff in the background around it? Because again, remember, this is nature drawing. No one is fact checking you. No one is asking you to see your photo references. You could put those trees wherever you want. You could put those bushes wherever you want. You can add flowers wherever you want. Like, you are the master of this universe here. So you are allowed to make deliberate decisions about all those placements. In this example here, what I've done is I've kind of clustered things really tightly around my focal point. You know, I've got trees that are like intersecting the character's head. I've got flowers that are like, you know, right up against their shoulders, and bush lines that are like, you know, going through their skull here. And this might not be the most effective way to do this. This ends up feeling kind of busy and kind of crowded. This is not to say that images like this would not exist in nature. Like, you know, if you took a photo of your friend standing in front of some trees in a forest somewhere, there would probably be plenty of stuff that's like clustered around that friend's head. But again, this is drawing. We can do better than this. What I encourage y'all to try out is try leaving a little bit of I call it a halo of negative space around your focal point. Because again, you can put those bush lines anywhere you want. You can put those trees wherever you want. So purposefully leaving a little bit of negative space around that thing that you want your reader to be focusing on, that actually creates some compositional breathing room and actually helps to focus attention and not distract from that focal point that you want to have in your panel. And again, for cartoonists, this is oftentimes like the thing that we're doing with our nature drawing is we're drawing people in nature, and we ideally want readers to be focusing primarily on the people rather than on the background elements. So we have to think about how are we arranging our compositions for clarity's sake around our focal point. And again, no one is ever going to fact check you on like, would that bush really, you know, jump up above that person's head in that oh so convenient way? You are the god of this nature drawing, and if you say that the bushes are going up in that shape, then by God they are. Okay, another consideration. Oftentimes with nature drawing, obviously we're going to have a certain amount of depth in the composition, right? You know, you've got your foreground and you've got your background. And the thing that I want you to think about is ways that you can deepen your scope a little bit on purpose in order to come up with more visually interesting and pleasing compositions. So here what I've got is a little sketch, which is, you know, mostly all existing at more or less the same plane. You know, we've got a vine, we've got some bushes, we've got a character who's basically standing in the bushes, and everything's more or less like existing on the same like two-dimensional space. There's not a lot of depth to this composition. But if you just deliberately focus your attention a little bit more on one thing and less on the other, just broaden that scope a little bit, this is another very easy way to add some compositional interest to these panels that you are creating here. Also, a nice thing about doing this, if you take like one nature element and bring it really strongly into the foreground, this also is going to help you, because as soon as you increase the scope and the depth of that panel, you're also tapping into atmospheric perspective, where your reader is going to feel like you did a very good job if you didn't draw things in the background, because that is going to feel like, oh yes, that is visually correct. We recognize that because we have all been outdoors before and we understand atmospheric perspective on a subconscious level. So if you are purposefully deepening the scope of your panels and having a more dramatic difference between the foreground and the background, you can get away with drawing less. This particular composition, now that I've shown you this, you're going to start to notice this in comics all the time. Cartoonists love this trick, and it works. I can't fault them for it. So the thing that is going to be really helpful too, especially if you want to draw kind of a more detailed, populated, dense foliage background, is that if you do very deliberately bring that focus into one very large and very detailed foreground element, basically all the rest of the stuff in the background, you can generally get away with drawing it pretty loosely, because your reader's attention is going to be all on that foreground element. They're going to be like, ooh, look at all the detail in those beautiful petals right there, and everything else they're kind of not paying attention to. So again, if you are purposefully making a wider depth to your panel art and doing that conscientiously, you can get away with a lot more, and you're going to save yourself time, and your compositions are going to look stronger for it. All right, so again, as long as you're thinking about that focal point, as long as you have that really strong focal point in that composition, texture is going to be a really easy way for you to delineate the rest of the background. It's going to fit in time with atmospheric perspective. It's going to feel natural to your readers, and it's not going to distract from that important, strong focal point in your composition. A rule that an art teacher told me in high school that I have always like carried very deeply in my heart is like, never draw every single blade of grass. Like no points are awarded for drawing every single blade of grass. Just like, you know, give us some in the foreground and then like a smattering of texture in the background, and you're good to go after that. Indeed, when you do try to draw every single blade of grass in the background, it's usually just going to distract from your focal point. It's going to make the compositions too busy and kind of visually difficult for your reader to parse. So again, no points awarded for drawing every blade of grass. Another compositional tool that cartoonists love and that you can absolutely use to your advantage whenever you would like is think about layers of heavy spot blacks as being a way that you can introduce that sense of depth and that sense of scale, and also some dramatic lighting too, without having to draw a whole bunch of details in the background. If we've got like a beautiful mountain range that's all in like rich black silhouettes in the background, we're going to feel very like, ooh, yes, this is an exciting composition with lots of like depth and dramatic lighting to it. And you as the cartoonist, you didn't have to sit there and draw a bunch of like trees and rocks and stuff on that mountain. You just had to sit there and like draw the shape and then fill it in with black and you're good to go. So again, don't be afraid to use these tricks because they are going to save you time and they're also going to benefit your compositions. You get this really beautiful layering of like white areas against dark areas against textured layers, and that can help your compositions feel more natural, more open, more depth to them, and it also has that element of atmospheric perspective to it, which we love. All right, another far too often neglected factor when we're talking about nature drawing in comics is going to be wind. Wind is not only a thing which exists in the world, and therefore you should probably be drawing it in your comics on occasion, but also it is a useful compositional tool because what wind does is it creates a sense of motion and a sense of direction and a sense of life and energy and naturalism into your comics compositions. So whenever you are working with a nature composition and you're feeling like, you know, it's just missing a little bit of like energy and life to it, ask yourself, like, is the wind blowing in a particular direction right now? And if it's not, maybe that's a thing that you should introduce. Wind also is a thing which allows cartoonists to do fun things like, oh, maybe there are like leaves or petals or whatever that are floating in the wind, and those become additional compositional tools that we can place as we see fit, because again, we are the gods of these universes here, and we can put these elements wherever they're going to benefit our compositions the most, and we can move them around in any way which is going to feel visually pleasing to us and our eye as artists. Clouds, similarly, are also really useful and really underutilized compositional tools when we're talking about nature drawing. Clouds are great because they can take literally any shape and they can fill any compositional space that you need with them. So don't be afraid to introduce them. Don't be afraid to shape them whatever way is going to be most useful for you as an artist. And again, this is also going to add an additional layer of depth to your compositions, additional visual interest. A thing that I love to do, especially when I've got a panel like this, if I've got some text that I have to lay into this, it ends up feeling very nice if I lay the text in and into the sky and then find ways to have those clouds kind of lightly ornament whatever the negative space around that text is. It helps things feel more balanced and more natural. And it's me just, you know, choosing whatever cloud shape is going to fit best in the composition that I've got in front of me on the table right then. Again, clouds are great. They can be any shape that you need them to be. All right. Other things that you can do that are going to help you get better at this. One big one is going to be when you are reading comics, which I'm assuming you are all doing, pay attention to how other cartoonists are doing this. Like I mentioned earlier, every cartoonist over time tends to develop their own visual shorthand for the way that they like to depict nature. And oftentimes they're doing a lot of the things that I mentioned in this lecture, where they're relying on, say, maybe just 3 or 4 species, but they are layering them in deliberate ways in order to make the scene overall feel more densely populated and more natural. And they're also coming up with like unique shorthands for ways to, depict different species. They're thinking about, different heights of species in order to fill the compositional space. And they're also oftentimes thinking about foreground and background and utilizing atmospheric perspective as a way to not have to invest all of their time and energy in background elements, focusing mostly on foreground elements and allowing those background elements to fade out. But it still feels very natural to our human eye because that's how we're used to seeing things. Another thing that you can do, which is genuinely very useful, is go outside and do some plein air sketching when you can. Again, this does not have to be like pulling teeth. It is fine to go outside with just a cheap little sketchbook, or if you're like waiting at a bus and you can pull out your notebook and like draw whatever tree is nearest to you. The more practice that you get with that, the better that this is going to get for you over time. And the thing that I'm going to encourage you all to do is when you're going out and doing this, be thinking with your comics brain rather than your fancy visual art photorealistic brain. Your job is not to, again, draw every leaf, depict things in their most photorealistic light. Your job is to come up with ways that you can essentially characterize the plants that you are seeing around you. How would you treat them with the same types of visual shorthands that you would treat characters that are showing up in the pages of your comics? And if you can do that, then you're going to start making inroads towards developing that unique visual shorthand style, which is going to end up becoming your calling card in a way as a cartoonist for nature drawing. All right, so with that in mind, I am going to go ahead and transition us over into an exercise. So please take a moment and grab some drawing materials. This is going to be a drawing exercise. We're going to spend some time practicing the things that we've been talking about in this lecture. Here is what's going to happen. I am going to put a somewhat complicated forest photo up on the screen in just a moment here, and I want you all to draw it as if it were a comic panel. Again, no points awarded for drawing every single leaf. You have the freedom to pick and choose which things you are drawing from this photograph. You do not have to be photorealistic about it. It is okay to be cartoony about this. It is okay to use whatever simplifications and visual shorthands feel most useful to you in that moment. And I have one additional thing that I'm going to ask you to do. Since we are cartoonists and we are oftentimes drawing characters interacting with our natural backgrounds, I want you to draw yourself somewhere into this scene as a focal point. Your character is going to be one of the things that you want your reader's eye to be drawn to. You want that element of this composition to be like an eyeball magnet in whatever way is going to make sense for you to do. And I also want you to think about, once I put this photo up on the screen, what are you doing in this forest? How do you want to depict yourself hanging out in this natural scene? So since we are at about 7:40 right now, I am going to give us just 10 minutes for this, which is not a lot of time. But again, this does not have to be super fancy and photorealistic. This is just a quick exercise. So don't beat yourself up about it. I'm going to put 10 minutes on the clock. I'm going to give us our photo, and then we're going to go ahead and get started drawing. All right, let's go. Here is your forest scene. You've got 10 minutes to draw it and draw yourself into it.
That's a great one, Mel. Thanks.
Excuse me?
Yes.
What did I miss?
Oh, let's see. Did you just come in?
Yes.
Okay. I'll get him up to speed, Mel.
Thank you.
Okay. So Mel gave us a long bunch of ways of thinking about how to draw nature scenes, and I'm going to try and paste some of those into the chat right now. And we're all sort of rendering this photograph in a sort of cartoony way, and we're also drawing ourselves into it.
Okay.
And I'm gonna. So Mel gave us a long. Whoa. Okay. And I'll put some of the details into the chat.
Okay.
There are quite a few. Let me see what I can pull out.
Sometimes when I'm late to the thing, I catch up by listening to the YouTube on
Oh,
fast
yeah?
speed.
It sounded like Michelle.
So the person who just came, you can watch on YouTube after to see the awesome presentation we just enjoyed. Not right now, but later you can do that.
So. Okay. Going to add some in right now. Okay, that's a few.
About 5 more minutes for folks who need a time check-in.
Mel, you kept saying no extra points for this, no extra points for that. Are there extra points for anything?
Really cool concepts for what you are doing in this nature scene.
Okay. Extra points for that.
1 minute left. All right, that is our 10 minutes. So go ahead and put your pens down. I am going to go ahead and exit out of this. So we do have about 10 minutes left if folks want to share the drawings that they made. We'll do this entirely on a volunteer basis.
Awesome. If anyone, oh, cool. We've got some hands already up. So Mel, I'll just spotlight them and then you can comment. Okay. So here's what I'm seeing in my, I've seen Allison, Brandon, Jeannie, and then after that, we'll start with Allison. There we go.
Hi guys, so I did mine entirely in black and gray. And I used the gray to provide the atmospheric perspective. And I used a little bit of a blank bit in the foreground to put some text in. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Okay, we'll go to Brandon next.
All right, let me
Hey, Brandon,
flip
how's it going?
my camera. Yo, how y'all doing?
All right.
Okay. This is mine.
Wow.
This was really fun.
Oh, excellent work using the halo technique around the character in the background to create that negative space that helps the focal point to stand out more clearly.
Thank you.
Are you walking on water there, Brandon?
Yeah, so yeah, I'm definitely walking on that waterfall back there. I don't care if my shoes get wet, it's fine.
Awesome. This is fun, Mel. Thanks for getting some great things out of this. Okay, we'll go to Jeannie next. So then Jeannie, Sarah, Jackie.
Okay. So I think it might be too, I don't know. There you go.
Beautiful.
So
Yeah.
Trying to ford the river.
Excellent work. I love what you're doing with the texture of the trees in the far background too. Finding a really simple way to have just like spare line work to show that there's some foliage back there.
Thank you. Thank you. It was fun. Thanks so much. So much info.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeannie. We'll go to Sarah next. Here we go.
Hi. Well, wait. Oh, I did my stupid fuzzy thing in Zoom.
Background.
Sorry. My background. Basically I'm just leaping across the whatchamacallits, the rocks.
Beautiful. I could see you were doing some of the spot black texturing in the far background.
Yes, I'm
too.
glad you noticed. That was great, and I've never really focused on backgrounds before, so you were so informative, and thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks. We'll go to Jackie next. Oops, I lost Jackie. I think Jackie lowered her hand already. Jackie, raise your hand again. All right, hang on. There we go.
Thank you. It was super informative, Mel. Really a lot of information packed into that. And here I am and saying, I'm huffing and puffing and thinking, easy hike my ass.
We've all been there before. Yeah, Really nice work with the rocks in the foreground too. It helps if you think about rocks as being just like goofy shaped cubes in a weird way, and you've done a really nice job with that here.
Thank you. Well,
Awesome. Thanks, Jackie. What was it? Goofy shaped cubes? Wacky shaped?
Yeah, they're kind of geometric in a way, and you can simplify them down to just like weird sort of or rounded cube shapes of various sorts.
Love that. Love that. Okay, we'll go to Nina next, and then Bruce, and then Joe, and then Anuja. There's Nina.
Okay, wait a second. It says unmute myself. Am I
You're unmuted.
There's something across the screen. Oh well. I don't know if you can see this. I can't, but so I'm a forager. So of course I have to be looking for mushrooms wherever I go. And I found a prince that's an Agaricus Augustus mushroom.
Oh, amazing. I'm also a mushroom forager, so this appeals to me very personally.
I have a morel on my arm that I found.
Beautiful.
And I drew that and had it tatted on my arm.
Incredible. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I love what you're doing with the like chunky spot blacks in the water too. That's a really nice way to, add some visual depth and kind of creates a nice like extra layer around the focal point there.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Nina. We'll go to Bruce next.
Boom. Okay. This, let me take this thing off of here. Almost there. There we go. Okay. This is these two mugs are going out looking for a woolly mammoth. So they just, they're driven. Anyway, yeah, that's it.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, you really took the prompt and ran with it there. Yeah.
Thanks, Bruce.
Utilizing foreground and background for your focal points.
Gotta be. I did cheat a little bit though.
Hey,
I remember when you said
cheating,
pencils down.
We are pro cheating here.
I think this was all about cheating, right?
When you said pencils down, I was so, I gotta add something more here. So.
All right, we'll go to Joe next. Here we go. Oh, you there, Joe? Oh, it's not.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, is it my turn? Thank you. I just unmuted and here is my picture. I have something in the front. I did. Hold on a sec. There we go. Okay. The photo immediately reminded me of a time when I was with my cousins, one my age and one very young, walking across a stone dam in that's kind of with the water flowing over it. And the little cousin disappeared all of a sudden. My other cousin picked him right out of the water and we were fine. We got in a lot of trouble, but that I could imagine being in that situation in a happier time. And I'm singing and the trees are singing and one of the trees is playing guitar or some cello or something and a frog is croaking with us. So there's mine.
Beautiful. Oh, I love the wiggly lines in the water here.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Anuja is next. Here we go. And then we'll go to Marley and Indy after that.
This is myself as a snail. Yeah, my ink pen kind of started vomiting. So that's why I can't take credit for the contrast. It sort of did its own thing, but yeah.
Oh, it works though. I think that like really heavy spot blacks oftentimes look really nice in water that you're drawing.
Yeah.
Also, you get the like really like not drawing every leaf award here, like very deliberately paring down the leaves very well here.
Thank you.
Start giving out awards.
Yes.
Okay. We'll go to Marlene next. Hi, Marlene. Let's see. There we go.
Oh. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so
thank you for all the information. I found it very interesting. My compositional tools are the trees, and they are evergreen with the leaves in between. I try to put in visual depth with the water and the background surrounding my focal point, and my focal point is the person cycling across. I try to create the waterfall image and the rocks and a few little flowers. Because of time, I use cotton buds to put a few white flowers on the edge. And I really enjoyed this exercise. Thank you so much.
Oh, I love the mixed media here. This looks beautiful.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marlene. Okay, we'll go to ND next. Once ND comes onto the screen, there we go. Hey there.
Hi. Not much from it today. Sorry. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I started working with the digital pad, and I'm still not working well with the lines. I'm not familiar with the variations of lines yet. So it's difficult, and this is like the third day I've used it. So so you can see in the corner there's a ladder tree that was in the original picture. I put that in, but this is actually a very focused picture on the river. There's a branch in the river, and I just sort of took one part of the branch and put it in the background, took the other part of the branch and put it in the foreground. I won't share what it is that I'm thinking about in the picture, so because it's PG, right?
Yeah, you're allowed to keep your secrets here. Yeah, no, and I immediately recognized the specific like log in the river that you were drawing there. So you did a nice job capturing that like rotted bark texture.
Yeah, it's still like it's completely different from ink, and it's hard to negotiate the terrain at all. But I've sort of committed myself to moving away from ink, for better or for worse. So that's the first attempt at it.
Yeah, always good to push ourselves out of our comfort zones.
Yeah.
Awesome, MD. Thanks.
Yep.
Go to Megan next. Megan will come on screen. There we go. Hang on. There we go.
So I drew myself jumping across the rocks in the foreground because I would definitely do that while hiking. So part of the fun is trying to bounce myself off various parts of the hike.
Absolutely. To like treating it like a Mario landscape. No, this looks beautiful, and you did a really nice job capturing like the depth of the foreground and the background here, and finding a simple way to delineate that background in the far distance. So really nice work.
Thank you. I don't quite understand. I was thinking about trying to apply like some of the spot black, but I don't quite understand what that is.
Oh yeah, that just means like areas of the composition that you're filling in with like solid black. And there's lots of different ways that you can do that. The easiest way is just to play around with it on your next composition and fill some things in and see how it looks for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much. We'll go to Scout next. There we go.
Sorry, that's my picture. I spend a lot of time drawing. Like it takes me a while to draw things, so I didn't do like my best I could have ever done, but
oh, it's okay. 10 minutes is not a lot of time to draw a detailed background in any case, but lots of nice work on the detail on the character that you drew of yourself here.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Scout. Keep doing that.
Thank you.
Emma is next, if they'll come on screen, and then we have Susan and then Ahan. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Oh,
thank you for. What was that? Oh yeah, it's behind me because I was working digitally. But thank you for a fantastic workshop. This is really fun and helpful. But because it's spooky season, I thought I would add like a little ghost and a little Mina witch hat.
Yes. It's very over the garden wall.
That's the best compliment I could have gotten.
High
Over the
praise
garden
right
wall.
there. Yeah, no, the way that you're using the spot blacks on the trees in particular, like really effective here, introduces a lot of visual interest and a nice sense of like compositional balance throughout.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Okay, we'll go to Susan and then Ahanu and then Beverly.
Hello. I wanted that orange stick. And what I really liked, I can't remember what you called it, Mel, but putting that item in the foreground, that bold item in the foreground, I think really added a lot to the composition. So thanks for that tip.
Oh, of course. Yeah, that is a trick that I end up doing all the time because it saves time and makes the compositions look nice. You did an excellent job here.
Thank you.
Awesome. Going to Ahanu next, then Beverly. Mary.
I really liked the picture a lot, so I tried to capture as much of it as I could. I tried to stick to the original composition of it. I don't know if this is flipped backwards, but I also wanted to do the sort of like halo around the character thing. So I tried to make sure there was a lot of space, and it's like in front of one of the waterfalls. And also over here, there's like sort of a little halo around this rock because I felt like having the dark underneath of the whatever you would call it, underneath the level of the waterfall would make the rock just like not read as a rock. So I wanted to make it stand out more.
Yeah, rocks can deserve halos too sometimes. They can be focal points. Yeah, but yeah, really nice work with directing the reader's eye to that focal point in the center of the composition.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks so much, Ahanu. That was nice. So we'll go to Beverly, Mary, Umi. And you're muted, Beverly.
This is got my unmute there. So this was mine. I'm not sure if the perspective is right of the person going over. That's me going over the waterfall.
Living dangerously here.
Yeah.
This is another one where the work that you're doing with the watercolor, using that like mixed media texture to your advantage for the far background as like an atmospheric perspective element, is working really nicely here.
Yeah, their watercolor, just their watercolor pencil crayons.
Very cool.
Okay, we'll go to Mary, Umi, Mishka.
I have a tendency to get very impressionistic when I draw nature. So that's kind of what I did. Sitting on a rock, having a glass of wine.
Oh,
because, as you do. It was kind of messy, but I was scribbling the whole time.
Yeah, nature is kind of messy and scribbly too. And honestly,
Yeah.
when I'm drawing pine trees, I do something pretty similar to what you're doing here, where it's very like scratchy and a lot of like up and down hatch lines like that.
Yeah. It started out as squiggles and then it turned into hatches. And yeah, I've drawn a lot of trees in my time. So
Yeah, big fan of squiggle trees here.
yeah. I kind of like the way the water turned out. Thought that was pretty cool. Okay,
Awesome.
That's it.
Thanks, Mary. We'll go to Umi next. Let's see.
So, this is in my background, but I did digitally. Oh shit! So I need to erase it. Anyway, I did black and white, and this is really good because it was really uncomfortable in so many ways. So I hope you can see. So, whoa. I don't know if you see it, but this is what you see is like me hiking with my cat, and then my cat is going before me, which never happens. Like she's so timid and meek, so she's gonna always follow me. So this is the fantasy of the artwork, and it was really interesting for me. So I think I wanna do this whole month. So thank you, Mel. I am so encouraged to do this, and thank you for everybody.
Of course, it looks beautiful. I love the highlights on the water and the way you painted those in.
Water is important.
Very much so.
Awesome. Thanks, Sumi. We've got Mishka next, and then Jamie, Fedora, Katie, Jaromir. Mishka, replace.
I'm staring into the sun because I want you to see my tree. So here's, I liked your theme of no points for drawing a relief. So that's that. Okay, there we go. But I also do
like really beautiful, like painting on the water in particular and the reflections.
This is what I wanted to draw originally. So since I was so late, I was doodling this while everybody was talking. That's me, not me in the picture, but me, the picture and me, I guess.
Excellent.
Awesome, Mishka. Thanks. We've got a couple. Jamie, would you mind? We usually close with you, Jamie. Would you mind? Can we go? Can we
close with me? That's cool.
Okay. It's always fun to do that. Okay, we're gonna go to
All
Fedora.
right.
Okay.
I'm down.
Okay. Here we go. Fedora, and then Katie.
Oh, hi. So I'm up. Yeah, can that, is that visible?
Yes.
Maybe not, right?
We can see it.
Okay, so I think this is the counterpoint to Umi's cat. My intrepid cat.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I think I kind of cheated too, because I drew afterwards and I need some cat anatomy, I think.
It looks great though. I love what you were doing with the markers for the water, the nice like quick brushy strokes for the water.
Thanks. Kind of haloed her a little bit, but there's so many possibilities, right?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks for
Fedora.
this.
Okay, a couple more. Let's see. We'll go to Katie. Here we go.
So I did this as well. Thought that was a nice hack. So yeah, this piece reminded me about a lot of the rivers that we have along some of the highways in New Hampshire. And I am not currently living in New Hampshire, so I missed it a lot. So that's kind of what I was going for there. Just the fondness of the trees and the water and chilling on a rock.
Yeah, you can really feel the peacefulness of the moment, both through the character's pose and also the way that you're depicting the trees and the water. It feels very gentle and very nice.
And Mel, note the wind.
Yes, wind.
Thank you very much.
Okay, awesome, Katie. Thank you. We'll go to Jaromir, Erica, and then Jamie, and that'll be it.
This is my go. Whoa.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, also doing the halo thing around the character and the focal point there. Nice work.
Thanks.
Beautiful colors on that. Okay, we've got Erica. Meredith popped up. We can go to Meredith and then Jamie. Here we go.
That's what I did.
Yeah. Oh, another nice thing here, having that nice like dip in the composition in the far background that kind of like slopes our eye into the focal point there. Really nice work there.
Thanks. It's supposed to say sigh because, it'd be like that sometimes.
We've all had those days in the woods.
Libby says in the chat, don't bump into Brandon, Erica, while you're out there walking on the water. All right.
We'll battle. It'll be fun.
All right. Thanks, Erica. We'll go to Meredith and then close out with Jamie.
So I definitely had to cheat and draw a little longer because I'm not great at this, but that's what I have. I really wanted the focal point to be this is me. I don't know who this random stranger is. This is me in my hammock out there enjoying the view. So
Oh, I love the way that you're drawing the little shrubby branches in the foreground too. Those feel very nice.
Thank you.
Love that. Thank you. Okay. And Jamie, bringing up the rear. If you come on screen. Let's see. There we go.
Oh God, is it time for me?
Hey.
Okay. All right, hold on. Now here, I missed a couple weeks, so I just wanted to show Tom because I'm a butt kisser. Look, I made zines, Tom. Zines. And look, this is the thing. So here's the thing. I was so excited because my mom sent me a present and it was Tom's book. And then I drew the book in the zine. Can you see it?
Wow.
It kind of looks like it. I thought that was kind of good. Anyway, but I was so excited about this nature thing because I'm having an allergic reaction to peanuts. So hopefully I don't die before the next one. But I was very excited about this because my favorite show is Alone. And that's because I spend most of my time alone. And so I thought, oh my God, I get to put myself in the picture. And here I am catching a salmon. And I did cheat. I kept on going. I added some color. And also I forgot about the halo. And I realized all the shit was coming in and closing in on my character. And I thought, oh no, she's just taught us the halo. So I went back in with this cockamamie whiteout pen that I had. And I faked a halo in there. And then I tried to use your black technique and whatever. That's me all excited because I finally caught a fish. And that's all I have to say, because now I'm turning bright red because I'm embarrassed. But it was so wonderful to learn this stuff. And I took notes and I'm going to go back and memorize them and draw nature all the time now. Thanks, guys.
Excellent. Yeah, this looks beautiful. And you are for sure going to win that season of Alone with that salmon.
Right. I need it. I'm fat. I need to eat. Although I might be ahead of some of the other people, the contestants that go in skinny. I'm like, you don't stand a chance, man. But if you're packing on an extra few like me, those people, you can just watch them slowly shrink and they're like, I'm hungry, but I'm still living off my body fat. So I got that going for me. Anyway, thanks. It was so wonderful and educational and I really had a great time. So good to be back.
Yay, Jamie. We missed you. Thanks for being here.
I missed you guys too. Thank you.
All right. Well, Mel, wow. Thanks so much. You got so many, you gave everyone permission to cheat and to use tricks. Use cockamamie tools, as Jamie says. So yeah, I just want to thank you for that. It was so great.
These all turned out beautifully, everyone. Thank you for putting up with this and for being so game to try out the various tricks that I was recommending in the slideshow. These look beautiful, and I hope you all get the chance to go out and do some like wonderful plein air drawing this fall. It's a beautiful season to be outdoors and drawing trees or whatever else grows around you.
And Mel is doing a workshop. Can you tell us about the romance comics workshop real fast? It's 4 weeks.
Yes. So that is going to be a 4-week course starting in mid-November, going through early December. And that is going to be very much so a genre fiction course talking about romance comics. So we're going to go through things like romance story structure and characterization and depicting relationships and like building romantic and sexual tension between characters. It's going to be a lot of fun. And it should be formatted somewhat similar to this, where there'll be, roughly hour and a half long lessons that have an exercise component to them on top of a lecture from me. As you'll have the chance to learn some things, try out some new strategies, and hopefully come away with it with more tools in your toolbox if romance is a thing that you're interested in incorporating into the comics that you make.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks so much. Everybody, let's give Mel a little applause and then say thank you. And
Thank you, Mel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was awesome. Awesome.
Thanks so much. Night, everybody.
And I
hey, Jamie, people are asking in the chat if they can get your zine.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Oh, I made 7 of them. 7 people could have a zine. So sure, Susan, I don't know how to facilitate that. I am completely inept.
They can message you on Instagram.
Yeah, they could do that. Oh my God, that would be the first time anyone did that.
What's your Insta handle? I'll even trade you some of mine. What's
hey
your
Jackie,
Insta
I recognize your voice now. It's like I have friends, but I don't really have friends, but I kind of do. It's at Jamie Scandal. So you'll see like me and maybe some dogs and some art and shit, and you'll be like, that's her. I know her. She talks a lot. Leave her camera on because her face turns red. That's why. Sorry.
Thanks, Mel.
Thank
This is
you.
Really
Thank you
great.
so much,
We
Mel.
appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Mel.
Thank
It's gonna be
you.
a fun one to watch again. Yeah.
What's your
I'm gonna
book
watch-
called again, Mel? The
Totally.
next book?
Oh yeah, how do we follow you? What's your handle, Mel?
Oh, there it is.
It's in the chat. Mariah put it there.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I'll
Oh my
put it in the
God. Of
chat
course,
again.
of course it's there, and I just don't know.
Oops, I just put it at the end.
Thank you.
All right. We got lots of, for anyone who is in grid mode, you got lots of Umi and her cat too at the end there.
Oh, M. Gilman. Okay, got it.
Oh, there's the cat again.
Okay.
Oh my
Bye.
God.
People, bye. Have fun.
So much.
All right.